My name is Lauren Matthias, and this is Hidden True Crime, where we delve into the hidden motives of unimaginable crimes. Thank you for subscribing. Today, we are covering a very important case, the case of Athena Strand. It seems that these days, most children prefer playing on their tablets, iPads, or video game consoles rather than running around outside with friends. And when they do choose to venture outside, our own yards typically feel like the safest place and a place that we would encourage our children to be off of their screens and enjoying fresh air. However, cases like Summer Wells serve as a stark reminder that children can disappear without a trace, even in rural areas that appear more private and secure. Similarly, in November of 2022, 7-year-old Athena Strand disappeared from her home, located on just over 6 acres of land in Paradise, Texas. Investigators soon uncovered that someone had actually entered Athena's family property, someone the small, tight knit community should have been able to trust. And in this episode, we're covering everything you need to know as the trial seeking justice for Athena begins this month. Athena Presley Monroe Strand was born on May 23rd, 2015, to her parents, Jacob Strand and Maitland Gandy. Growing up in Comanche, Oklahoma, Athena was known for her infectious personality. According to her mother, Athena never met a stranger and loved horseback riding, playing with makeup, and puddle jumping. Even though her parents, Jacob and Maitland, had been together since 2012, they separated in 2017, with Maitland staying in Oklahoma and Jacob moving to Texas. Athena primarily lived with her mother, but would spend time with Jacob as well and was very much a daddy's girl. Maitland went on to give birth to her second child, a daughter named Rylan, in December of 2019, and Athena slipped seamlessly into the role of big sister. Everything was going well until about 2022, when Maitland started experiencing some health issues, making it increasingly difficult for her to parent two young girls on her own. And at that time, Maitland's condition was undiagnosed, and she was undergoing numerous testing and procedures to try to figure out what was going on. And due to the uncertainty of the situation, it was decided that Athena would move in with Jacob temporarily while seeing her mom and her little sister Rylan on the weekends. Well, after their separation, Jacob, and what I mean is after the separation of Maitland and Jacob, Jacob married a woman named Ashley, who then became Athena's stepmom. And Ashley and Jacob settled in on 6 acres of property in Paradise, Texas. Paradise is located just north of Fort Worth in Wise County and has a population of just over 500 people. It's the kind of place where everyone looks out for each other. The couple also lived with Jacob's oldest daughter, Alice, from a previous relationship, and they went on to have another daughter together. So it seemed like life was paradise in Paradise, Texas, a perfect place for Athena to roam and grow and have a family. Their property is adjacent to Ashley's sister's home, and Jacob's parents also live close by. This made it so Athena was always surrounded by loving family. In November of 2022, Athena began attending first grade at Paradise Elementary School, where she made a lot of new friends and she connected to her teachers. Later that month, on November 27th, Athena had been spending the weekend with Maitland and was set to return home to Paradise for the school week. Now, even though Athena loved being with her dad, this time around staying with her mom and little Rylan, she didn't really want to leave this time around. She understood that she was going to be gone for a few weeks this time before being able to come back and see her mom and little sister for Christmas break. Rylan was particularly upset as well that her big sister was leaving. Rylan cried as they dropped Athena off, but Maitland assured little Ryland that she'd be seeing her sissies soon before driving away. Back at her dad's house, things were a bit more chaotic than usual. Jacob had been working on renovations inside their small home, and so he converted a storage shed next to the house into a bedroom for Athena and her half older sister Alice to temporarily stay until the construction was complete. Well, that week at school, Athena and her friends were excitingly anticipating all of the upcoming holiday activities before break. On Wednesday, November 30th, Jacob left with his father to go on a short hunting trip near San Antonio. He was already gone by the time Athena arrived home from school at around 4:15. Athena played for a while before Ashley, her stepmom, came into her temporary bedroom inside the shed just before 6 p.m. that evening. She told Athena to sort her clothes for laundry while Ashley went back inside the main house to start dinner. About 20 to 30 minutes later, Ashley went back out to Athena's room to let her know that dinner was ready, but Athena wasn't there. Ashley looked around the property quickly, but when she couldn't find Athena, she thought maybe she had gone over to her sister's house down the road. Again, family all lived close by. So she called her sister, but she hadn't seen or heard from Athena either. Starting to feel a little panicked, Ashley called Jacob to let him know that she could not find Athena. He told her that he was turning around to come straight home and instructed Ashley to call 911. Well, police arrived at the family's home just before 7. And by that time, Ashley and her sister and brother in law were already scouring the property more thoroughly. When Jacob arrived, he joined the deputies, the fire department, and EMS who came to help. And the media was also notified. When Maitland learned her daughter was missing, she was again all the way in Oklahoma, but she quickly made her way to Texas. And she posted on social media asking everyone to pray for Athena's safe return. Local news channels quickly covered the story, including national news, and hundreds of volunteers from the community showed up to aid in a grid search of the surrounding area. Time was of the essence because freezing temperatures were expected overnight.
Yeah, it's been about 48 hours since Athena got off her school bus and went inside her Paradise home. Since then, deputies from the Wise County Sheriff's Office and law enforcement from around the area have been working day and night to bring this 7-year-old home. Yesterday, about 200 volunteers walked shoulder to shoulder through the brush in search of Athena. While there was no luck during that search, the Wise County Sheriff says today they are transitioning from what was a search with an investigation to now an investigation accompanied by a search. Officials say they no longer need volunteers' help looking, as officers could be seen today on horseback near Athena's address, continuing their search.
The Wise County Sheriff's Office quickly involved the FBI because they believed they were dealing with a possible abduction. However, due to Athena's disappearance not meeting the qualifications for an Amber Alert, one wasn't released until she had already been missing for 24 hours. During the chaos of the search, the FBI began focusing on a more targeted investigation. Even though Athena was gone, something was left in her place: a package delivered by FedEx. It was actually a 6-pack of Barbie dolls, one of Athena's Christmas presents. The FBI determined pretty quickly that that package was delivered around the time Athena was suspected to have gone missing. And with this information, investigators made their way to the local FedEx office. There, they discovered that the delivery was actually made by a third-party company called Big Top Spin, whose FedEx contracts with during peak delivery seasons, and this was going into the Christmas season. It was, again, just after Thanksgiving, so that Black Friday timeframe. They learned the truck used during the delivery had video equipment installed by another third-party vendor called Velociter, who quickly released the footage. Even though the footage only ran in 1-minute intervals, an FBI agent was able to see the driver putting Athena into the truck and talking to her inside the truck. Big Top Spin provided the FBI with the identity of the driver, 31-year-old Tanner Lynn Horner. So, who is Tanner Lynn Horner? Well, Tanner was born on August 8th, 1991, to parents Melissa and Terry Horner. There is some speculation of neglect, substance abuse, and criminal activity leading to Tanner being raised primarily by his grandparents, Jackie and William Harbison. Their home, the grandparents' home, is located in Fort Worth, about an hour away from Paradise. And according to associates of Tanner, he coincidentally lived in a converted storage shed attached to the main home for the majority of his life. On Tanner's social media, he claims to be diagnosed with autism, and former friends have stated that he brought this up in almost every conversation, this diagnosis, and he really wanted people to know about his autism. Since childhood, Tanner was always interested in alternative heavy metal and hardcore rock music, learning to play various instruments and also singing. As a young adult, he started forming bands with small groups of friends and played at local shows as the frontman and singer. However, none of these bands lasted very long. Tanner's strange and clingy tendencies allegedly got on his bandmates' nerves, driving most of his friendships away. There are some videos of Tanner singing that have surfaced. Take a listen. According to these former friends, Tanner had always been socially awkward and seems to have an interest in younger women. He allegedly dated a 14-year-old when he was in his early 20s, and in 2019 was accused on social media of being a rapist by a woman named Shay Marie when she was only 16 years old. Shay stated that at the time no one believed her, which is why she didn't report the assault to police. And another former friend also said that Tanner would talk about self-harm, blamed the world for being a social outcast, and used his autism as an excuse for anything bad that ever happened to him. In this friend's words, Tanner gave off, quote, school shooter vibes, end quote. But this former friend said that he always expected Tanner to hurt himself before hurting anyone else. In 2019, Tanner began dating a girl named Cassie, who at the time would have been around 17, just turning 18. They went on to have a child together in 2021, and even though they considered themselves a couple and stayed together, Tanner continued living in the shed at his grandparents' house while Cassie stayed with her family. He had been working for Big Top Spin, making FedEx deliveries for about a year before arriving at Athena's home to deliver her Christmas gift, a box of Barbies. By the time the FBI determined that Tanner was the driver, Athena had already been missing for over 48 hours. On December 2nd, authorities arrived at Tanner's residence in Fort Worth and brought him in for questioning. And according to his arrest warrant, Tanner admitted to the investigators that he had, in fact, taken Athena and that she was no longer alive. According to Tanner, while delivering the package, Athena was in her yard and he accidentally backed into her with the FedEx truck. She wasn't seriously injured. However, Tanner said that he panicked about potentially getting in trouble, so he forced Athena into the truck. Inside, Tanner spoke to Athena, and she told him that her name was Athena. He then alleges that she also said she would tell her father about what happened, prompting him to try to snap her neck. When that didn't work, he strangled her to death with his bare hands. Tanner agreed to lead officials to Athena's body, but at first gave two incorrect locations before finally revealing where she actually was. He drove Athena about 10 miles away to a road called County Road 4668 and dumped her small remains in a creek under the bridge. It's unclear if Tanner pulled off on this side road or threw her over the bridge, but her lifeless body was located near these rocks. It hasn't been confirmed if Tanner really did back into Athena with the truck or if he just saw her and decided to take her. It's not hard to imagine a child being excited about a delivery, and most people trust delivery drivers to even run out to retrieve the item before they can set it down. However, Athena's autopsy concluded that she died from strangulation and suffered blunt force trauma to the head, which may have been a result of the vehicle impact or his initial attempt to snap her neck. Time will only tell if the medical examiner believes she was hit with the truck, and there may be other footage that hasn't been released yet but may be shown during the trial. Following his admission, Tanner was arrested and officially charged with aggravated kidnapping and capital murder. He's being held on a $1.6 million bond, and the district attorney claims they are seeking the death penalty if convicted.
And continued good work by this investigative team, they were able to determine that the driver abducted Athena. And from the investigative standpoint, digitally as well as good old interviews, we think Athena died within just a very hour or so, the very hour or so after her departure from her home. This driver is a contract driver, and his name is Tanner Lynn Horner. one of the toughest investigations that I've been involved in because it's a child. And anytime there's a child that dies, it just hits you in your heart.
At this point, Tanner has pleaded not guilty. While incarcerated, 3 more charges related to sexual assault against a child under the age of 17 were brought against him as well, but these are unrelated to Athena and are said to span as far back as 2013, so possibly regarding the allegations made by Shay Marie. Like most murder cases, there have been several delays, including the decision about who would represent Tanner at trial. In July of 2023, a district judge in Wise County decided to remove Tanner's court-appointed attorneys and replace them with lawyers from the Regional Public Defender's Office. This decision came after the judge found out that the Public Defender's Office has a contract with Wise County to represent defendants in capital murder cases. In 2024, Tanner's new attorney filed a motion requesting a change of venue. She stated, quote, "The publicity has been inflammatory and it's created such hostility towards the defendant and has caused prejudicial opinions of members of the community to such a degree that it is unlikely a jury could be selected, which could render a verdict solely on the evidence presented at trial." Mr. Horner believes he cannot and will not get fair and uninformed jurors who are capable of setting aside the publicity that has already occurred, much less ignore the media coverage that will occur once the trial has begun, end quote. She also mentioned that since the death penalty is different from every other punishment, these cases require heightened scrutiny and reliability. In September of 2024, the Wise County judge approved the motion, ordering that the trial be heard in the larger neighboring Tarrant County. It's been said that prosecutors agree with the decision, citing that Tanner will be less likely to appeal due to an impartial jury if he's found guilty. Following the ruling, Tanner has since been moved to a jail in that other county. There's no way to comprehend how a parent feels when they are notified that their child has been taken from them in the most horrific way, murder. In an emotional interview, Athena's mother, Maitland, talks about what that moment was like and what she wishes she could say to Tanner if she ever got a chance.
And one of the FBI trauma agents, she had escorted us into that room, and I knew from the moment that Sheriff Aiken walked in that he was going to tell me everything that I had felt had happened. It's hard to look people in the face when you're giving them the worst news of your life. And so I knew when he walked into the room and he was looking down and he had his lips rolled in, I guess is how I would describe that. I don't remember what he said. I remember feeling broken and empty. And I couldn't breathe. I literally stopped breathing. And it took my dad and the FBI trauma agent to make me start breathing again. I don't know how to describe that feeling. I don't. And I think a lot of people in those experiences try to block it out. And I just remember the feeling of not being able to breathe.
If you could say anything or even ask anything to the suspect, is there anything you'd like to ask or say to him?
I don't think he would ever give me the answers that I want or that I think I need to hear. If I could sit down in front of him, I think what I would like to tell him is that he is nothing, but Athena is absolutely everything. And I will make sure that everybody in this world knows that he is nothing and she is everything.
Following Athena's death, thousands of people came to a candlelight vigil to support Athena's family and friends. Memorials have been set up around Paradise, and community members continue to hang pink ribbons in honor on their mailboxes. When the company Mattel learned that Athena was being delivered Barbies for Christmas, they reached out to the family asking to make a donation. Mattel ultimately donated 2,000 Barbies and other items to a Texas children's memorial, and Maitland helped organize the event for the young patients to pick a toy and do crafts. However, the most burning question that's still on everyone's hearts and minds is why? Why did this have to happen? Why does this ever have to happen to an innocent child? The fact that Tanner worked for FedEx sparked a massive distrust in other delivery drivers who approached people's homes on a daily basis. Given the backlash, delivery drivers for FedEx and other companies started a campaign on social media writing, "Your babies are safe on my route," to hopefully regain the public's trust and to honor Athena. Even if it was an isolated incident, her parents, Jacob and Maitland, have filed a wrongful death lawsuit against FedEx and Big Top Spin. Their attorney said in a statement that they want to, quote, prevent billion-dollar organizations from insulating themselves from liability by using fly-by-night contractors instead of acknowledging the responsibility they bear when they trust them to come on our property, to our doorsteps, and even inside our homes, end quote. In the 18-page lawsuit, it states that it hopes to effect change at FedEx and the practices of its subcontractors like Big Top Spin in their hiring, their training, and supervision of contractors and employees. It also says that FedEx and Big Top Spin were negligent in the hiring of Tanner by failing to properly investigate his criminal history, mental history, and prior employment history. It alleges they failed to properly train Tanner to work in a safe manner, failed to supervise him, and implement and enforce safety policies and procedures. They are currently seeking $1 million in damages for Athena's death. While some attorneys weighing in on the lawsuit believe they have a valid claim, others aren't sure that these companies can be held liable for a driver murdering someone, even a child, on the job.
Brian, what do you think? You think the Strand family has a strong chance of winning their suit?
I want them to win, but I don't think it's going to be that easy. Texas has very strong third-party liability where they're not liable for the overt criminal acts of a third party. Now, if he had just hit Athena and then walked off, they might have been liable for that, but they're not liable for that overt criminal act of kidnapping and then killing her. So that's going to be difficult for them. And even if they do sue, I think FedEx is going to point the finger at the subcontractor, Big Top Spin Inc., and try to get the money out of them. I think FedEx may be able to dodge and weave away from liability, but at the end of the day, I do think Athena Strand's family will win because you don't want to be seen as the large company who then ends up indirectly even killing this young girl and then dodging any kind of accountability.
Athena's disappearance has also inspired change in the way missing children alerts are conducted in Texas. In June of 2023, Governor Greg Abbott signed off on House Bill 3556, lowering the threshold for local missing child alerts. The new Athena alert will allow law enforcement to send out localized alerts within a 100-mile radius of where a child has gone missing and in adjacent counties. This can also occur before it's confirmed that there was an abduction, which is one of the stipulations of the traditional Amber Alert. If there is not a sure abduction, sometimes that Amber Alert doesn't work. And so a statement from the Combined Law Enforcement Associations of Texas said, quote, "We are in full support of Athena's law, which allows for expedient activation of an Amber Alert in certain circumstances. While we appreciate the criteria in place for a statewide Amber Alert, this law provides needed flexibility in alerting nearby residents in a quicker and more efficient manner when a law enforcement department head believes a child is in grave danger," end quote. There are countless Facebook pages in support of Athena and her family. And after over 2 years since her death, everyone is anxiously waiting for her to finally receive justice. However, one question that seems to arise is how Tanner could plead not guilty. After he confessed and led police to her body, how could he plead not guilty? Some have pointed out to the fact that in the arrest warrant and affidavit, it appears that Tanner revealed that he took and killed Athena before he read his Miranda rights. It reads, quote, "Investigators located the defendant. The defendant stated to investigator Joseph Oliver and Texas Ranger Job Espinoza that he had taken Athena. The defendant stated to investigators she was deceased. The defendant stated when he was backing up in his FedEx truck, he accidentally hit Athena with the truck, but she was not seriously injured. The defendant stated he panicked and he put Athena in the van. Investigators transported the defendant to the Wise County Sheriff's Office. The defendant was read his Miranda warning. Ranger Espinoza and Investigator Oliver interviewed the defendant. The defendant stated when he was backing up in his FedEx truck, he accidentally hit Athena with the truck, but she was not seriously injured. Panicked, and he then put her in the van. The defendant stated Athena was alive at the time, talking to him, and told him her name was Athena. The defendant stated he attempted to break Athena's neck to kill her. The defendant stated when he attempted to break Athena's neck, it did not work. So he then strangled with his bare hands in the back of the FedEx van. End quote. Tanner's attorneys could argue that since he told police that he killed her before being read his rights, that the confession should be thrown out. However, he did continue talking to police and revealed the location of her body after being read his Miranda rights. So that may not be where the defense is going. The other strategy may rely on Tanner's mental competence, which is something his former friends speculated as well. He stated that he could almost guarantee that Tanner would use his autism as a defense, but autism alone doesn't automatically excuse someone from committing murder. When it could technically be considered a mitigating factor to argue for a lesser sentence, proving that it directly caused the criminal behavior would be very difficult and could perpetuate negative stereotypes. It's also been documented that Tanner attempted self-harm in May of 2023 while incarcerated, which may be used in a mental health defense as well. It's unclear if Tanner had a previous criminal record, but with delivery drivers approaching people's homes where children may be playing, doors unlocked, pets outside, they need to be screened to the fullest extent to make sure they can be trusted. And on Tanner's social media, you can see that he also worked as an Uber driver, which is chilling to think about. You never know if the person driving you around has been properly vetted or may turn out to be someone like Tanner. Regardless of any speculation over his potential defense, Tanner Horner chose to end Athena's life, according to Tanner Horner. Law enforcement has labeled her abduction as a crime of opportunity, and if the sexual assault allegations are true, that may indicate a motive. Maitland described seeing Athena after her death and believes that if she were really hit by a truck, she has no doubt that Athena could have walked away. Even if she were a little bruised up, she and Jacob wouldn't have pressed charges. He didn't have to kill Athena.
Jacob and I are very forgiving people. If that were the case and Athena was not injured, or even if, she had a few bumps and scrapes, he could have just driven away. We wouldn't have went after him legally. We wouldn't have done anything. We would have forgave him because accidents do happen. But he chose to do more. And what he did is unforgivable. I did Athena's hair and I dressed her before the funeral. I did all of that myself. And I have a hard time believing that Athena couldn't have just walked away.
And now Athena's siblings have to live without their sister and were forced to learn about the evils in this world far too young. Athena's parents won't be able to see her grow up, and they have to grieve while dealing with the harsh judgments that always come in cases like this. At the end of the day, parents should be able to cook dinner while their children play in their own yards. Tanner is the sole person to blame for this senseless act, and Hidden True Crime will be following this trial and sharing any updates until Athena Strand gets the justice she deserves.
I support the death penalty in any sentencing that may come, as long as it's to the fullest extent that we can get it to. Every breath that he takes is one that my daughter doesn't.